Elden Ring Nightreign looks very weird, and not necessarily in the case that it's going to be a bad game, because in a lot of ways, it looks absolutely incredible. However, after finally getting our eyes on the gameplay and what it's going to look like from the player's perspective, it definitely seems to be the polar opposite of what a lot of the FromSoft Souls-like games have been in almost every way. And the first instance of this is just the movement within the game in general. Because in a lot of FromSoftware games, you're not moving necessarily sluggishly, but you're moving through the world, you're exploring things at a slow pace, you're worried about whatever crazy thing you're going to see in the next room or behind the next corner, or trying to find different loot, hidden walls, etc. That is the polar opposite, again, of what they have tried to do with the movement here in Elden Ring Nightreign. Because they have taken liberties here to make sure every mechanic, at least movement-wise, in Elden Ring has been reworked to be as fast-paced as possible. Number one here, there's no mounts. You can actually do a super sprint where you're basically just running as fast as Torrent would have run within Elden Ring. Because of this, the spirit springs around the map can just be used at will and on foot without needing the mount as well. On top of this, there's different trees around the maps that you can click on that's going to enable you to pretty much fly around the world at an extremely fast pace, as well as even basically wall running. So if there's, a height of a wall that you wouldn't be able to get up in the normal Elden Ring, you can basically jump up and almost pretty much mount up onto that platform in this game. And all of these changes are mainly because you're going to have pressure from the circle that's going to be constantly closing in on you and your party, or you if you're running solo. So gone are the days of the exploration of Elden Ring. You really have to just go, go, go. It's going to be intense. You're going to have to make those split decisions, whether you want to search around for loot, you want to kill a boss, you want to kill a group of enemies, or you just have to sprint into the circle to make sure it's not catching up to you and your party. Which again is a very different experience from pretty much every FromSoftware game before this, at least in the Souls-like genre. And that takes me to the gameplay in general, because you're going to have this circle closing in on you that is going to end the day, where there's going to be a big boss at the end of that day. And once you complete 3 different days, you finish that, full cycle. And to my understanding, there's 3 full cycles that you can do that all have 3 days within them. And you're continuously going to be having to run through the world and get power as fast as you possibly can to be able to be as powerful as you need to be to fight and beat the final boss. Now, to get this power, there's going to be a number of different ways. You obviously can find items out in the world and on the ground that you've seen a lot of these same items in Elden Ring, for example. You also are going to be picking up weapons that have different rarities on them, that have different modifiers on them, like you'd see in an ARPG, where there might be a percentage increase to a type of damage or something like that. And then also on top of that, they're going to have their weapon arts that we've seen in Elden Ring as well. Some of these items might be common, for example, or they might be blue or purple, or even a legendary item that all are going to have more modifiers or specific bonuses on them that are going to have even higher rarity than obviously the one that comes before it. But you're also going to have smithing tables where you can use to upgrade your equipment and things like that, which we again have seen in Elden Ring. And these are going to be found by finding different map markers that are going to open up different parts of the map that you can then explore, which a lot of times are going to actually show you where merchants are as well out in the world, that are always going to be next to a smithing table. So those are other ways you can gain power as well. And then aside from all of this, you are still going to be able to find and wear talismans that are also going to make your character more powerful during your run. And you're not necessarily going to be dropping into the world that you know and love. There's going to be a lot of randomized environments that you're not necessarily going to know about. So you're going to have to pick and choose exactly where you're going to go. You're going to have to complete that area, loot up as fast as possible, level up as fast as possible, and go to the next area. And you're going to do this again while that pressure is going to be on you from the circle as you're moving through these days. And with this having solo but not primarily being a solo experience, you're not going to just be able to drop in and make whatever character you want to make. You're going to have to pick between all of these different classes that they pretty much have set for you, that have set abilities, which I'll go over the combat in a second, that you're going to actually use use to work together in a lot of ways. Maintain your health, maintain your mana, and maintain these different things by using abilities and working from yourself and the rest of your teammates to make sure you're sustaining what you need to get through all of these days, again, with the circle chasing you, with all of these different bosses and different enemies in the world, all of these randomized environments, etc. And what I find most interesting here is those unique set classes that you're going to pick from before you actually drop into your next run. Because, like I mentioned, these classes are going to have set abilities that actually work together, which we have not seen in a FromSoftware game previously. Yes, these games had multiplayer, however, they didn't necessarily have set abilities that were specifically for working well in a multiplayer environment. And not only do they have set abilities normally, but they also have ultimate abilities, and a lot of these actually have very unique mechanics to them. It actually seems like they took a little bit from MMOs here, where you have your frontline characters and then you have your backline characters. You have characters that are there for sustaining health and mana to where you can actually heal up and you can heal your group throughout it, but they do this in, I think, a very intricate way as well that still definitely promotes going in and being very fast paced and getting as much damage in as possible. One class I really like here is the Recluse, where their ultimate ability is actually going to give you immunity, so you're not going to be able to be damaged within your ultimate ability, but when you use it, it's going to mark the target, and anybody that attacks that target is going to get both health and mana. And if you're doing this consistently, you're obviously going to promote that sustainability that I mentioned, but also you have to hit the target to do that. So you have to still be playing fast paced as much as possible. You can't just sit in the back line and heal all of your players. They also just don't rely on their mana to use this ability or other abilities as well. They are going to be building up a gauge of different elements, and as they use all three elements, they can build up a gauge to use an even more powerful ability that pretty much combines these three elements and hits the target all at once, which I think is a very interesting way to not just have the normal, you have a couple abilities equipped like in Elden Ring and you can use them, but it's actually, like I said, those set abilities that are going to have more unique mechanics, similar to, in my opinion, some MMO classes that we've seen. You also have those big tank and frontline characters, like the Guardian, for example, that's going to have a shield stance that's going to move slower, but be able to block a lot of the enemy attacks. They also have a Whirlwind that's going to be able to also hurt the enemy and get rid of different effects out in the world, like Blight, for example. On top of this, they also have a lot of abilities to interrupt the bosses or interrupt the enemies so your other teammates can get better hits in. You have the Wilder, that's more of an all-around class. And there are a lot more classes here. Go check out Vadia Vidya's video. I got a lot of information here from his video of him playing 6 hours, and he goes into these a lot more in depth. And if you're interested in this game, again, definitely go check that out because it is very interesting to see all of these different classes and how they specifically work together. But lastly, with the combat, if someone does get down, you can run up, hit them with your weapon, and then you can revive them so they can live to continue fighting. And despite this being 3 players, it seems like you're going to be doing that a lot because these bosses do not look easy and their designs are not specifically designed for a solo experience. For example, one boss we saw at, I'm guessing, the end of the day, the quote-unquote Night Lord that they call it, that you're going to have to fight at the end of the 3 days, was a 3-headed Cerberus or 3-headed looking dog, and each head actually targeted its own one of the 3 players. So again, this is not going to be easy in solo. I have no idea how they're going to make this balanced for a solo player, not only with the classes kind of working together in that way and not being able to really do everything, but also because of the bosses that are specifically, again, designed like this to where all 3 players are going to have their own agency and things they're going to have to do to make sure you're taking down these bosses, because it is attacking all 3 of you simultaneously. And although we have seen bosses, for example, bosses where you have to fight 2 at the same time, or Radahn the first time, not in the DLC, that obviously were kind of telling you, hey, you should be using summons here. We've not really ever seen boss fights that are specifically designed for a multiplayer experience, which this game is obviously doing, it looks like, for the first time in the Souls series. And that goes for almost every single system. The reason I say this game is weird is because all of the systems are designed in a almost polar opposite way than we have ever seen from what FromSoftware has designed previously. Again, the movement is as fast-paced as possible, and you're not going to have a lot of time to sit there and explore. You're going to have to loot, make quick decisions, and keep moving. The combat is multiplayer oriented. Again, something we have not seen, where it's supposed to work together. You have specific abilities, specific roles, not something where you, I guess, pick your just armor and your quote unquote class kind of at the start of the game, but it's really just a base point to make whatever character you want to be. That's pretty much how all of the Souls games have worked, with the exception of Sekiro. And the progression, very different again than we have seen in any Souls game up to this point from FromSoftware as well, with items having different rarities like an MMO, for example, or a looter shooter. These items having percentage modifiers on them, like something you'd see in an ARPG. This is a very weird experience. Not because of the experience that it is. There obviously are games that are similar to this, like Dark and Darker and Dungeonborn, for example. However, for FromSoftware, for a Souls player, this is a very weird experience for them, and something very different that we haven't seen before. I would suspect a lot of Souls players not to absolutely love this game, and players that don't like Souls games potentially to absolutely love this game. It's going to be very interesting to see the target market that this actually hits. Myself as a Souls player, and someone who does like extraction type of game, someone who likes battle royales, someone who even likes looter shooters and MMOs a ton, I'm going to absolutely love this, but I don't think all Souls players are, especially if you are a huge fan of the single player environment, and I think that's okay. This is something very new for the FromSoftware team. They're trying to hit a new audience here. They're trying to hit people that might not have wanted to grind all the way through Elden Ring and don't like that slower paced gameplay and like multiplayer and playing with their friends, and they want to have a version of that. Obviously, they're reusing probably a ton of different assets, not only from Elden Ring, but even from the other Souls games as well. We saw the Nameless King, for example, one of the bosses that's returning. So it was probably a fun thing for them to work on. It probably wasn't too much lift on their end. Obviously, I guarantee they put a lot of work into it, but not like they would have had to do when they were creating Elden Ring, for example, from the ground up. And FromSoft has really never dropped a bad game, so I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table here, albeit very weird if you're someone who is a diehard Souls fan, and that's kind of one of the main type of games that you play. Thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. Are you excited about everything you have seen and everything you have heard? Is this not your style of game? Are you going to skip past this one? I would definitely love to hear your guys' opinions down below, especially if you're big Souls fans. I would love to hear if you are or are not excited for this game. Are you playing the network test? Please, again, let me know down below. Thank you again for watching. If you are new to the channel and you like gaming news and gaming reviews, specifically with an RPG, but even other genres as well, and you like the video that you see here, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.